Let's bring in Andrew Brandt, the Monday morning quarterback columnist, former front office executive. Let me ask you that question. I'll start with that, Andrew. What's the position that you wouldn't want to, knowing what you get paid and the prestige that goes along with it, what's the worst position in the NFL?
Yeah, good morning, Dan. And I think it's got to be the business approach, which is my expertise, and it's got to be running back. It's the shortest shelf life in the NFL. They're the most disadvantaged by this college eligibility rule of 3 years in college before you can come out, because their prime earning years are when they're in college. And of course, their first contract, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And by the time they get to the second contract, a lot of teams are like, yeah, they're kind of washed up and we can get one in the low rounds. And the only guys paid really now are McCaffrey and Bell on the franchise tag last year. It's like, yeah, it's a bad position if you're talking about the business of football.
And I said at the time, look, if Carolina needs to have somebody you want to come out and watch, then pay Christian McCaffrey. You're not going anywhere with that team for the next couple of years. Dallas invested in Zeke Elliott, and then they gave him the contract extension, which I wouldn't have done. But Jerry believes in, hey, we have a good running attack. I don't know what the Giants are going to do with Saquon Barkley at that position. Handicap that down the road. Where we are with the NFL with these running backs, first of all, is a running back going to be taken in the top 10 anytime soon? And are you going to extend these running backs that you take in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a personnel standpoint, there's always those outliers like Elliott, like Barkley, like McCaffrey, that are going to be top 10 picks, maybe one every 2 years. I mean, I think that's where we're really talking about. But on the pay scale, listen, I hear about the outliers, Frank Gore, Emmitt Smith, Curtis Martin, but that's what they are. They're outliers, and we got a league that doesn't like to admit it. But people in my former position are all into analytics right now, all into modeling and statistical analysis and quants and Harvard PhDs in the back of the offices. And they're telling them, don't pay running backs. I mean, just don't pay them. When you talk about allocation of resources, the positions, quarterback, pass rusher, left tackle. But at the bottom of that is running back. And that's my answer. That's the bottom position. So there are going to be some tough decisions. You got a guy like Aaron Jones who had a great year for the Packers. You see my helmet.
Yeah.
What they do, they draft a running back in the second round. So this is happening all over the league.
Well, if you could have Christian McCaffrey or Jamal Adams, who would you want? Let's say pay is the same.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's going to contradict what I just said. He's truly special. I think there's a guy. He's truly special, but in McCaffrey, but there's so few of them. And segueing, you're right, Dan. Safety's kind of back there on the list too. Safety, linebacker. These are the positions that traditionally don't get paid. Now, I know what Adams is saying, what his agent's going to say. They're special. They're the McCaffrey and Elliott's of that world. But again, teams are looking at it and say, okay, where are my resources? Quarterback, they're going to have to pay Darnold in a couple year. And then pass rusher, and then, of course, left tackle and the offensive line. And you've got a GM there whose history is pay the trenches, as he did in Philadelphia, pay the trenches. The Lane Johnsons, the Fletcher Coxes, and then from there, look outside.
The situation with Jamal Adams, where he is, he wants to get a new contract here. But does he have any options here? Does he have any leverage?
I mean, the short answer is no. I think some teams are a little more, it's a hard word, like cowed by this kind of thing. But I think in recent years, less and less teams. I mean, I think back to the Jets years ago that were cowed by the civil disobedience of Darrelle Revis and responded. But I don't think there's much going around right now that has that. And as I tweeted this morning, Adams has no leverage contractually. He did a 5-year rookie contract. Well, it's 4 years plus an option. And as we know, there are tags beyond that. So right now, the Jets have 2 years of contract control plus any tags. And how do you have leverage there? I mean, how do you have leverage? And as you indicated before the break, if he tries to extend this to take it to another level with a holdout, oh my God. I mean, the CBA already rolled back rookie contracts and the kind of contract control teams have, but now they added penalties severe for holdouts.
We're talking to Andrew Brandt, the Monday morning quarterback columnist, former front office executive. If Jamal Adams called you for advice today, what would you tell him?
Is there a way to have reasonable contract negotiations now rather than play on this contract for 2 years? Because I think once you get to trade demands, then you're not talking. Then it's kind of like baseball. Then you're just kind of in the corners.
Yeah.
Can we get to a contract and not have him sit for 2 years waiting for that to happen? Now, Jamal Adams, I would be the agent. I would understand you'd have to take below market because you're 2 years away. Whatever the top of the free agent safety market is, they were free agents. They didn't have 2 years left. So you got to balance that versus his talent versus whoever those players are.
What are the Cowboys waiting for with Dak Prescott, or what is Dak Prescott waiting for?
I'm going to take a different view here. I said this on your show before. Dak Prescott not only has leverage, but his leverage increases if he waits. Now, can he wait? Because if he waits, then there's a second tag, and do they really want to do that? And then he's negotiating with extreme leverage. But maybe that's the play that CAA is using with the Cowboys. Like, we want to really knock it out of the park. Home run. And if you don't want to do a home run, Cowboys, we'll wait. It's kind of that simple. And, I think Mahomes, I think Chiefs are going to throw a ton of money at him. And he can say, great, or he can say, I'll wait, and my leverage will only go up. And so with Prescott, people can mock $40 million a year, whatever he wants, but why not? What's his downside? Play for 25 this year? Okay.
The business of bringing in Colin Kaepernick. We know the political aspect of this, but the business side of this, tell me why you would or wouldn't bring in Kaepernick if you were running a team.
Well, I wouldn't, because it just seems so reactionary. You haven't done it for 4 years. No one's been eager to do it before. You talk about Goodell encouraging teams to sign. I mean, if I'm an owner, I'd encourage Goodell to stay out of our
I was
business.
going to say, what does that mean, that the commissioner's encouraging owners to do this? I mean, they probably look at Roger and say, Roger, shut up. We run this league.
And no one has, quote unquote, endorsed his statement, which is another issue in itself about protests. But I just think if Kaepernick, the other issue with Kaepernick that's been there all along, Dan, is backup players. I've been there, front office. You don't want backup players getting a lot of attention, frankly.
Yeah.
If you got a star quarterback, it's a lot of attention off the field, fine. But a backup player, and obviously he's going to be a backup. He hasn't played in 3 years. And what team is going to say, forget all the politics? Well, this guy, what player in the league right now is coming off 3 years of inactivity? Zero.
We had Dr. Fauci on yesterday, and he has talked about maybe the NFL needs a bubble like the NBA. Your thoughts on the bubble for the NFL?
Well, it's interesting because we've seen comments from Dr. Sills of the NFL and Dr. Mayer of the NFLPA. And the translation, Dan, of those comments is, thanks, Doc. We'll handle it. Because they don't want to go in the bubble. They don't want to put 53 plus 20 coaches plus 50 staff in a bubble. Now they do a bubble on Saturday night and Sunday before the game but no. I mean, listen, this is a big issue because we've been here 10 years with concussions. What's the stated priority of the NFL? Health and safety of our players. Now, here's the reality. If that's true, they wouldn't play. Right?
Yeah.
If that's their number one priority,
yeah,
they wouldn't play. But it's not true, because the business of sports, because the economics say you really have to play. And you have to play, and whatever modifications you have to do. But if you start drilling down, here's the problem. You got 150 pages about social distancing and not spitting or sneezing or locker room six. But it's football. How do you practice and play football among these protocols? That's the needle that they're trying to thread here. You can do all you want with 115 pages of protocols, but I don't know if any of them go into playing the game, practicing, which is the opposite of social distancing. It's, bodily contact and sweat and droplets everywhere. So I don't know how you solve that.
Yeah, I saw where Sean McVay was basically saying that. He goes, I don't know how you can be safe, but then play football. John Harbaugh said, I just don't know how this is possible here. And I
Well,
wonder.
John Harbaugh's talking about the protocols, which is great. I mean, listen, you got to do it. Sorry, John, it's impossible to live like that, but you got to. But the McVay thing is more realistic. It's like, what about playing?
I know.
And when you have a coach saying that, that's an issue. So listen, the NFL has been extremely fortunate. They can watch basketball, they can watch hockey, they can watch, if baseball comes back, they can watch MLS. How they do with testing and treatment and tracing. What did they do? What's best practices for isolating and quarantine? They're so lucky because of the timing. But then you get to the fundamental question of, can they actually play this game where the virus is going to be in 3 months? They're hoping it's much less than it is now, but that hope is not a plan.
Good to talk to you, Andrew. Hope you're well. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Dan.
That's Andrew Brandt, Monday morning quarterback columnist. Now on the tee, his shirts are tighter than Phil Mickelson's. He used to get our breakfast. Now we don't know what he does around here. You may know him from his legendary choke job during the AUAA Season 1. Jean Vandeveld just called and said he can't wait to see him golf. Here he is, Ario Miranda. Now on the tee, he recently quit smoking, which was pretty much all he was known for. He also drives a Camaro, but has never actually had a female in the passenger seat. You don't know him, but you would love him. He's Tyler, the moderator.
What do you want to change going into the rest of the round?
Well, I've got to apologize to my fellow chatters, man. I did not expect to fold under pressure like that, but I just cracked a brewski, Bud Light Seltzer, and I am ready to come back here.
Wow, that's a lot of excuses. Back to you guys. Hey, tell me what you were thinking when you hit that amazing shot out of the weeds.
Well, I've played that ball a lot. I mean, I'm not a great golfer, so I've been.
No, we know. No, we know.
I've been in Fieschi a ton, so I'm just used to that. That's just business as usual for me, Marv.
This isn't pretty. In fact, I should be getting paid to be out here. But there's tension in that cart with those two guys, real tension. And they started drinking. Tyler, who gave up smoking, is now grabbing a big dip. So I don't know if these guys are going to survive. There could be tears. Luke in Alabama joins us. Hey, Luke, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Dan, appreciate you taking my call. Just wanted to make a suggestion that you play Sean McVay and that little clip there, and then you play Todd Fritz, section row seat. They are eerily similar. I think Sean McVay was trying to do stand-up, then realized he didn't say anything that was funny, but he couldn't get away from the microphone.
All right, Luke, thank you. I don't know if the guys in the back have section row seat with Todd available. Then we could play Sean McVay side by side with Todd at Caroline's. Which one had more comedy?
Wow. Which one had a better punchline?
Ooh.
I went desperate with like language, which had no place in that, looking for some type of chuckle.
Okay, I'm going to play Sean McVay first, And then we'll bring in Fritzy, a little bit of section row seat. Here's Sean McVay of the Rams.
We're talking about some of this stuff and we're playing football. I mean, we're going to social distance, but we play football. This is really hard for me to understand all this. I don't want to be, I don't get it.
Okay, that's Sean McVay. Here is Todd Fritz.
So I'm at a sporting event the other night, and at least 3 different people come over to me asking if I'm sitting in their seats. So I don't know if it's if you guys ever deal with this, if you go to a concert or sporting event, how difficult is to find seats at a concert or a sporting event? Think about it. It's got all the information you need right there on the ticket. Section, row, seat number. Section, row, seat number. It's really, really not that complicated.
Okay.
I got these people coming over to me and
All right,
saying,
all
I
right,
think we're in
that's
section
good
nine.
People coming over to me.
Yeah. Is there a way that we could play them both at the same time and then bring the volume up on one and then bring down Todd and then vice versa? So, Alan, if you can do that.
So I'm at a sporting event the other night.
About some of this stuff and we're playing football. I mean, we're going to social
me
distance,
asking if
but
I'm
we
sitting in their
play
seats.
football.
So I
This
don't know
is
if
really
it's,
hard for me to understand all this.
How difficult is to find seats at a concert or
About some
sporting
of
event?
this stuff and we're playing football. I mean,
Information you
we're gonna
need right
social
there on the
distance,
ticket.
but we play football. This is really hard.
That
for me
is
to
great.
That's a great
Hey,
call.
Luke, call back and have Marvin give Marvin your information. I'm
Fantastic.
going to send you some T-shirts, maybe a section row seat T-shirt, if we have any more left.
And we're back at the 4th hole of the mismatch. One word to describe this match so far: electric.
Playing a drinking game every time these guys hit it into the fescue. We have to drink. Fescue is French for holy. I just put it into the tall grass. This is painful. And he's so competitive. Unbelievably competitive. He's I think he thinks we're going to look at those as practice swings.
You know, during this match, I haven't been able to use the golf terms I know, like fairway, green, good shot, and par. I don't even know what else to say.
It's been everything we hoped for and then some. We knew it was going to be tight. We knew it was going to be hotly contested. We knew that there was going to be some pouting, some crying, questionable scoring. But Tyler is up 3 with 3 holes to play. May the best man, may the decent, may somebody win, please. He's a New York Times best-selling author, ESPN commentator, and you can see him on the SEC Network and heard on ESPN Radio, host of the Paul Feinbaum Show on Sirius XM. Paul joins us on the program. How would you sum up the week in college football this week, Paul?
It was tumultuous, Dan, with so many different things going on, from the social unrest piece of the puzzle to rising COVID rates in Texas. Anthony Fauci here yesterday pouring a little cold water on the positivity train. It was not a good week.
In particular, Oklahoma State with Mike Gundy, is he talking himself out of trouble or talking himself into even more trouble?
I think Mike Gundy is talking himself into being a commentator on some network fairly soon, because I don't think he can last much longer. I mean, he started the week off in bad shape, and then he kept talking and talking, and I'm not going to quote Shakespeare about protesting too much because he really never made any sense. And he went from wearing a One America News Network T-shirt, which seemed innocuous, even though he has supported it in the past, to then disparaging them after acknowledging that he didn't really understand why his players were so upset. I mean, it was a incalculably bad week for Mike Gundy, and he's really well known for one thing, Dan. He gave a memorable speech. I'm 40 and I'm a man. He's 50 now, and he's a buffoon.
If you ran Oklahoma State's athletic program, what would you do?
I would get rid of him, and it's not because of a T-shirt. I know a lot of people on certain political ideologies want to make it into that. I just think he's miscalculated so many times. He's embarrassed himself and the university so many times, and not to get to actual football matters, but he's 2-13 against Oklahoma, Dan. That doesn't work. I mean, I know John Cooper tried that trick at Ohio State about 25 years ago and finally caught up to him. At some point, even though he's got a good record by Oklahoma State standards, which is not very high, I think he needs to go.
Yeah, when you go 7-6, 8-5 the last 2 years, that would put you on thin ice, certainly in that conference there. But I'm waiting to find out if his players are truly accepting of this, because if they are, then that's their world, that's their coach, and I would accept it. From an outsider looking in, if I'm a player, I would not accept that, and I would ask for change if I could at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and I don't really think it's a close call. I mean, sometimes these are very narrow. These are 5-4 decisions. Not to sound like I'm covering the Supreme Court here on the DP show, although I've always wanted to cover the Supreme Court. But I mean, they can do better. I mean, I'd fire him just for the mullet alone, Dan.
You got Ole Miss on the clock now. The SEC is finally like. What is the state of Mississippi? Like, the SEC statement is basically saying to Ole Miss what?
Well, it's interesting. I thought the commissioner was interesting in how he did it. I mean, he went after the state flag, which has the Confederate flag in the corner. He avoided criticizing Ole Miss, whose nickname, don't be shocked here, Dan, the Rebels. That one was not, but here's where I think, I mean, if the commissioner of the SEC or somebody said to the KA fraternity at Ole Miss, you can't have your rebel flag up when you walk in, or your Old South party, which is the biggest night of the year, then I think we're really having a serious conversation. I'm joking about that, but you've been on fraternity row in a million campuses, and you will see a Confederate flag in a lot of them, especially in that one. But I think it was symbolically, it's a good move. I'm not sure what it really means, though, if it's going to have a lot of impact.
Is Ole Miss called Ole Miss? Is Ole Miss on their helmets next season?
If we have a season, probably not.
And I don't know how we play football. I know that everybody keeps saying, hey, football, you got time to figure this out. You got 100 players on these teams, Paul. I mean, if you just do the math, I think it's wishful. I think it's optimism, but I'm not even cautiously optimistic. I'm just cautious with all of this, Paul.
Dan, I've interviewed every commissioner in college football a couple of times now, every athletic director, and they all say we're very hopeful, we're optimistic. It sounds like you're at the Paris peace talks from 50 years ago. We had a very substantive meeting. The bottom line is nobody wants to be the person who says we're not going to have college football. Kirk Herbstreit about 8 weeks ago came out and he said, we're not having college football season, and he hasn't been seen since. I mean, he's been in a bunker, and he's afraid to come out because you don't want to be that guy. I mean, there are people who I've just read, well-known commentators assassinating Anthony Fauci's credibility because he he came on and said it's doubtful. I don't know how you do it. I agree with you, and it's not my decision. I'm a commentator and talk show host like you are, but I think it's an incredibly strong, big challenge. And not only are some saying we're going to have it, there's athletic directors in Texas saying we're going to have 50 to 75% capacity in the stands. I mean, that's even more outrageous to consider than even having a season, which you could start a season maybe. I think the challenge is what everyone says, getting to the end of it.
Talking to Paul Feinbaum of the Mothership. I was wondering about this, and I proposed this. I don't even know what day it is, but months ago. Can you have the students go back in August and they go to Thanksgiving, and then you could have football start as I know the student's going to want to be there for football, but if you're trying, this is about money. This is all about money, and certainly with the NFL, certainly with baseball, maybe college is not as heavy-handed, but can I squeeze in a college football season that starts after Thanksgiving and still accomplish? Maybe it's an abbreviated season. What's the likelihood of college football starting later than earlier?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll college football people will start it whenever they have to start it. They don't care. But the problem with that though is it's about a 15-week season under normal circumstances, and if you started then, you're really in a more dangerous time of the year for not only COVID, but for the flu.
I know.
That's the peak of the flu season. And I don't want to sound like I know too much about this. I happen to be married to a doctor, so I hear it every night when she looks at me like, "Are you talking about having a college football season on your show?" But I don't know. I mean, the truth is they're going to try. I mean, I think I had a person tell me this to show you how crazy it is. I had a person tell me this that some coaches are hoping that all these players will get it. So maybe they won't get it again, and you can have the season. But yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense. It obviously doesn't. But can we trust college coaches to even be honest about these tests once we get to the season? I mean, you talk about getting ready for the Ohio State-Michigan game, the Alabama-Auburn game, the Georgia-Florida game. Are coaches going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, my star player tested positive. I'm going to quarantine him in the offensive line"? I mean, college football is ripe with lying and cheating and fraudulence and deception, and I don't think this would be any different.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And we joked about it, that maybe knowing Saban, hey, everybody gets sick, so then we're ready and nobody else is ready. A team activity. Come on out. We're gonna take everybody go to the lake house. We're going. It's a Corona party in more ways than one. Come on in. It's on me. But yeah,
we're gonna be like Sweden.
I just don't. I want to have college football, but that doesn't mean we're going to have college football. If I said starting on time, the odds of starting on time for all of these conferences is what?
I think some will start on Labor Day weekend, and I know I'm not giving you a namby-pamby answer. I don't think everyone will, and I think that's where the dysfunctionality of the season will begin. The only thing that will stop that is this: that students start arriving back on campus in late August, and the problem just blows up. And college presidents, like the one at Michigan who spoke out a couple weeks ago, just say, you know what, we can't do it, and then there's a trickle-down effect. But right now, it's just like politics. Nobody wants to speak up in Washington, D.C., and it's the same in college athletics. Nobody wants to be the one that stops and asks the question, what are we doing here? Is this really safe? All they seem to be doing is let's get to the season so we can start cashing those TV network checks.
Paul, great to talk to you. Hope you're well, and thanks for joining us.
Dan, always a pleasure. Be well.
That's Paul Feinbaum of the Mothership, New York Times bestselling author, and of course, host of the Paul Feinbaum Show on Sirius XM.
All right, we have Mario at the 8th hole. He's down by 3. It's gonna have to take a miracle for him to pull off this win against Tyler, the moderator. I have no confidence in him.
I was having a decent hole until I just plopped it into the water. Fell apart here on that back.
The back
Of the
6.
9.
The back 6.
I started off very strong, but
Hey everybody, we just finished up the mismatch. The victor, Tyler.
Feels good, man. First front couple of 2, I screwed up because of the pressure, obviously. Not used to being on camera. And then I got it together once DP kind of kicked me into gear and ended up with the victor for chat row. I do it for chat row, always for chat row.
Wait, we're on TV every day. What do you mean?
True. I don't have a voice other than my buddies in chat row.
All right, so Mario, first the air ball, and now this loss. Where do you go from here?
I'm just going to pick it up, and if anybody else wants to challenge me, I'll take challenges. We could just turn this into like a Suck It Mario Invitational. Let's keep rolling.
I don't think that's a good idea, but thanks everybody for tuning in. That was terrible.
I see Mark Cuban. Can I hear Mark Cuban? Moments away. We're still trying to get the audio there. He is ready now. Mark?
What's up, Dan?
Hi, bud.
How are you doing?
I'm good. What have you been doing at home?
A lot of the same. Watching my kids run my life and trying to pretend I'm still in charge with my wife. You know, the usual.
Do your kids think you're cool?
No, absolutely not. No.
Well, wait. You own the Mavericks. You seem to have some money. That's not impressive to your kids. Shark Tank? Come on.
No, they think they're cool, but they don't think I'm cool at all.
I love the story. I know you've talked about this before of flirting with running for the presidency, but you have to take inventory with your family.
Of course.
So, first of all, was it real that you were considering a run in 2012?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if your family voted for you to run for the presidency, would you have done it?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, so take me at dinner when you. So I'm assuming it's dinner, and then everybody gets a vote.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one of those things like, okay, my wife and my oldest daughter are like, no, we've heard it. We hear everybody's asking us. Don't even think about it. And I'm like, can we at least take a vote? And everybody was no, except for my 10-year-old son. He was on the fence. He's like, but I think it would be cool to have Secret Service.
Okay.
And his sisters are like, no.
Well, that's a big commitment there. But I was wondering about that. It wasn't an anonymous poll. Like they're putting their hands up.
No, everybody.
You needed a lobbyist on your side, Mark.
Yeah. Well, consider they all voted no. It wouldn't matter if it was anonymous.
Help me out with this bubble here of understanding exactly what we're up against, because I have issues with it, but I'm called Danny Downer here. Like the NFL and college football, everybody just assumes, well, it's the NFL and college football. We're going to play football. I don't know. I don't know if we have a Rudy Gobert moment and then what happens here, Mark.
I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's no question about it. But, every day we learn a little bit more. It all comes down to the science and trying to do whatever we can to keep everybody safe. I think if you look at your own home or what you're doing there, when you have a controlled environment, you feel safer. And as long as, people adhere to the program, we hope we should be okay. If it's when you get the aberrational scenarios that we can't anticipate that I think creates some risk. But, as long as everybody's on board, I think we can pull it off.
Are you going to be there?
I will be there at least part of the time. We're shooting Shark Tank. We're finally opening up, allowed to shoot Shark Tank. So we're trying to squeeze it all in. I tried to get the mothership to allow us to shoot Shark Tank since it's an ABC show at Walt Disney World, but we haven't been able to pull that off yet.
We're talking to Mark Cuban. He's the Mavs owner. I saw a stat. I don't know if you even know this. The best winning percentage for an NBA team since 2001 is San Antonio.
Yep.
Second
and
best.
We're second.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I knew that.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, up until the last few years, we were pretty good, but having a big, tall German guy certainly helped quite a bit. And so, yeah, I screwed up some things letting Nash go, but overall, it wasn't a bad run.
Didn't I give you grief about getting rid of Nash back when you got rid of Nash?
Everybody gave me grief. Deservedly so.
I at least do it to your face, Mark. I don't, these writers.
I got so much. Oh, forget it. Yeah.
If you, and we've talked about this before when you were interested in buying a baseball team, but if you looked at this as a businessman, what's going on in baseball? If I had you have the commissioner and the head of the Players Association, and you're the arbitrator, how could you bring baseball back that made the most sense? And we're just talking financially because I don't know health-wise how we're going to be, but financially, how would you do it?
It certainly from the outside appears to be a matter of trust. And I can understand why they don't trust him. Look at my experiences with him. It was very much, particularly under Bud Selig, it was autocratic. It was, his way or the highway, and, he'd give or take draft picks away. And so when somebody's in, when a business is run that way, and I don't know, if the current folks are doing it the same way, but when a business is run that way, it's really hard to trust. And the only thing really you can do is open the kimono and put all your economic information on the table and let them see exactly what's going on. And that's just not how baseball operates.
Adam Silver, though, has that trust on both sides. It appears that way. Do you think that he has that true trust on both sides?
Yeah, he's very collaborative. He's a great listener. He understands what the bigger picture is, not only just for the NBA, but also for our players and for the sport of basketball globally, and I think he takes on that responsibility. But Adam is not set in his ways. It's not, this is my way or the highway. He's very open to suggestions, no matter where they come from.
By the way, who would have been your running mate if you were running for the presidency?
You available?
No. You don't want that.
I hadn't gotten that far.
Yeah.
I had not gotten that far.
You got that far. In your
no,
mind,
I really didn't.
No?
You gotta win the game first. You gotta get in the game first before
you'd have to wear a suit and tie every day. You couldn't do
that.
No.
That would be the first thing I changed.
Sweatsuit?
Why not? Velour tracksuit. Can you imagine the State of the Union?
Commander in sweatsuit, Mark Cuban.
Why not?
The protest, or at least kneeling before the anthem. I don't know if your team has talked about this. You got other things to worry about, but is there any policy that you have as the owner of the Mavs or the NBA has that would prevent this from happening?
Well, the NBA's got a policy that you're supposed to stand and face the flag during the national anthem. But, like we were just talking, Adam is very collaborative and open-minded. And, this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us to really impact American society and change how minorities and African Americans in particular are treated. And so I don't think you stand on legacy items, when you have such an amazing opportunity. And, I haven't had the discussion with our players about this, but, this is their league. They drive this league 100%. And, I'm going to be very supportive because, again, when the pandemic first hit and we closed down basketball the night we were playing, that was bigger than the NBA. That was the health and safety, of everybody. Now this is bigger than the NBA as well. And so we have, the players have a platform to get to really show what's important to them and hopefully have an impact on race relations in this country. And so, again, that's far more important than, some rules that were established in the 80s that may not be relevant today.
I wanted to quote you correctly. Are you planning on kneeling?
I don't know if I'll be allowed to be down by the floor, but if I can act in unison and show support for our players, I'll certainly will.
What do you make of Kyrie Irving's comments here, Mark?
I don't know. I mean, you have to ask Kyrie on that. I'm sure he's got his logic. I don't know Kyrie at all. I haven't spoken to him.
When you realized that your star player was out of shape, did you place a phone call to your star player?
Oh no, I knew Luka was working out. That stuff about him being out of shape, yeah, because Luka and I text all the time, and he's really proud to show me his workout pictures. Really proud. And if Luka's lifting weights, he's taking pictures. Trust me. And
wait. So when you get selfies, and your wife said, "Oh, what do you got?" "Oh, it's a selfie, and it's actually from one of your players." Like, hey, I got somebody with their shirt off. Oh, no, it's Luka.
No, there are no "what are you wearing" selfies.
But how did it come out that he was not in shape?
I think that was a mistranslation from one of his coaches who was trying to make the point that he's not in game shape yet, but he's in good shape.
That's good. Hey, it's great. What do you have behind you? You got one thing that's hanging and then one thing it's not.
Oh, this is my little Shark Tank poster, so I always get to pitch, right? So you always selling. And that's an old broadcast.com thing that's been up there for a long time.
Other than the trophy, what would impress me the most about your memorabilia?
Probably when I first bought the Mavs in the first All-Star game I went to, Julius Erving was my hero growing up in Pittsburgh when I was a little kid. I mean, I literally went to the filming of The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh just to see Julius Erving from a distance. So one of my favorite pictures is a picture of me standing away from Julius Erving and one of my friends taking a picture. So it looks like I'm almost talking to Julius Erving. So that's my classic.
You've since spoken to Dr. J.
Yeah,
did you tell him about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, certainly did.
The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh?
Yes.
That was not a good movie.
They filmed it at the Civic Arena when I was a kid. And I took the 41B bus down to downtown Pittsburgh, and I snuck in through the back door. And I wasn't an extra. I didn't sign up, but I was watching in the wings while they were filming it. I'm just so excited.
That's great. Hey, it's great to talk to you, and hopefully we get this season started. But I do think football is got some question marks here. At least you guys got a head start with this bubble.
Well, we'll find out. We'll take the Hotel California approach, and you check in and you don't leave until you're eliminated. But everybody's learning every day. And we'll see what happens. Because the other thing, Dan, I'll mention real quick. This isn't just about the NBA. If we can't pull this off, what are college basketball and high school basketball and middle school basketball going to do? And we are going to be the template for them in a lot of respects on the things we learn and what we can communicate to everybody downstream. So again, this is another situation where it's bigger than just the NBA, and it's bigger than just basketball.
But do you think that, the teams that worked hard to get a home court advantage won't have a home court advantage? Were you in favor of giving these teams anything?
I don't know how we could do that. And again, that really wasn't even a topic of conversation, at least any of the conversations that I was in. It was more about the bigger picture. How can we do this safely? And again,
what if the Mavs had the number one seed?
What's that?
What if the Mavs had the number one seed?
I'd be like, we got to play all the games in Dallas.
Well, I did wonder this, Mark, and I don't know, could we have gotten to the point where the Eastern Conference and Western Conference teams played each other, or maybe just the finals played each other, and then so they were traveling there instead of staying in Orlando in this bubble?
We have to listen to the scientists who tell us what to do and how to do it best. The one thing we can't compromise on is doing our best to keep everybody safe. And so, the more you travel, the more people involved, the more locations involved, the more difficult it is. So I think we came up with the right approach, and we'll learn, and then we'll just cross our fingers and hope that we get a vaccine. So by the time next season rolls along, we'll have, more ammunition to try to deal with this.
Will there be an asterisk attached to this season?
No more than 1999. Everybody said 1999, there'd always be an asterisk, and, no one remembers.
I said that to people. I go, when the Spurs won the title, there was nobody brings that up at all. And they go, wait, what happened?
Or even the year, 2012, when there was a 66-game post-lockout season.
Yeah.
right? No one brought that up. And that was a big deal because you were playing back-to-back games to get 66 games stuck into a season. And so that was even more difficult. And so, no, people don't look at that. People just look at the rings on your finger.
Once again, he let Steve Nash get away. He's
that's only 16 years ago. 16 years ago.
Do you think Nash has moved on from it? He's
no.
Okay.
Every time I see him, he gives me that look. He won't say it, but he gives me that look. But we kind of put it behind us. We went out and had a couple of drinks one day, and I think we got past it.
But Phoenix had Kidd, KJ, and Nash on the roster at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Can't imagine what practice must have been like for those guys.
Yeah, a lot of passing.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Good luck with Shark Tank as always, and be safe. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, I know. That's a custom design. I'm going to hit you right in
Oh. Wow.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Why is this so funny?
Are you guys
Oh,
no. You guys are throwing. I like how he's trying to dodge That might be one of our better. It's not playing, man.